It's time to get your checking account to zero with free checking from PenFed. That's zero ATM fees, zero balance requirements, and zero time spent waiting for your paycheck to direct deposit because you can receive it up to 2 days early. Open your account with just $25 and see how big zero can be. Apply online today at PenFed.org/free checking. Early direct deposit eligibility may vary between pay periods and timing of payers' funding. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
Welcome back to the podcast. Here with my wife, Abby. Hi.
Hi.
You just got back from a run. How far did you run today?
5 miles.
That's good. Ended up being super nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful out.
We got like 18.7 inches of rain or something in October.
I believe it.
But my recollection of the month was that it was actually kind of nice because 2 of the weekends ended up being pretty nice. Last weekend was nice, and then at least half of the previous weekend was nice. What was the previous?
Last weekend was really nice.
Yeah. So we had when the weekends are nice, it really paints the whole month almost. So it was a rainy, sloppy mess as usual up here. But if you get a couple of those weekends that are pretty nice, then it makes it seem a lot nicer than it maybe really was.
Yeah, and I don't know. I like if half the day, if it's not raining, that's really nice because then you can get outside, you can go for a walk, you can go for your run. And if it's even dry enough that the road dries up a little bit, you don't have to worry about the cars driving by just spraying you with water. Yeah. So that's ideal in my book.
And that morning black ice, too, is not awesome. So when it warms up a little bit, that transition day is usually a little bit rough where it goes from rainy and then overnight it's pretty cold, and then it freezes all that moisture. And then if it gets warm or gets sunny after a day or two, it can kind of dry out if it's windy too. But yeah, that the black ice is not awesome. Had one day where I'd slipped. I think that was Monday this week, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah. So this last weekend was kind of the weekend that I was circled on the calendars. The last day of October, first day or two, or whatever that first weekend is, and I was super excited. And went out in the boat on Saturday, super excited. Rented a Forest Service cabin in a pretty remote spot, which is great. It's in an area that's kind of hard to access because the weather is usually not great. And that's not something you really want to mess with, especially if it's just a weekend trip. If you have more time, then you can maybe figure it out, but dealing with just a regular weekend makes it tough. And then, like I said, the weather's not great. So we get down there. Actually, no, before that, we headed past a spot, just kind of beach hunting, kind of passive beach hunting, but I see 2 deer, and this is stupid, and this is...
Well, I see 2 deer.
Yeah, sorry. I was driving the boat, you see 2 deer, and then we look at the 2 deer, and I see one pretty clearly, the other one I don't really see, but I know that there's a second one there. So, kind of nose into him a little bit. And beach hunting is so tough and weird. I don't think I've ever been part of a successful beach hunt.
Yeah, I think what you're leaving out is, so we're going to this spot that's totally exposed to the ocean. And in most of the spots that we take the boat up here, there's tons of little islands that break up any kind of swell or waves that are building over long distances. But out there, when we saw those deer, we were on the outside edge. We got open ocean south of us. And so we're trying to glass, and meanwhile the boat is bobbing up and down, 4 feet, 5 feet?
I don't know if it was that much. This is great.
That's like 2 foot waves. So like the swells
fill in the
top
gaps.
to bottom.
As an Alaskan, I sometimes forget to mention certain things. I try to be thorough, but there's always something I forget. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Yeah.
So I don't even know. We see these deer, but it's difficult. It's difficult to make a move on deer in that scenario because it's like, do you anchor in these waves? Do you go up the beach a mile and then hike back through all this, thick vegetation, or you try to get around on the rocks on the beach? So it definitely, I think the call that we made was that it wasn't going to be easy to get to those deer.
Yeah. And I think that's always the thing that I've never really been drawn too much to beach hunting unless I'm super passive and just drinking coffee inside cruising around, because that's always the concern. Like, it was hard for us to glass from the first spot because it was pretty wavy. It was supposed to be 2-foot waves, and it was probably in that spot about 2, but as we continued south into the waves, it was polished, but it was definitely some 3s and some 4s, which when it's sunny out, it doesn't feel as bad or foreboding because it's polished and it's sunny.
No, it's beautiful.
But this was, right at dawn, and you have these rocky shores, and so you can't nose in all the way because the deer's right there. So do you go a little bit further down, and then you and I have never really done we have not done a nose in, someone gets off, and then someone, takes the boat back out. So, because you're still a non-resident until August of next year, I would have to be the one that gets off the boat. So then you would have to nose, or
So
I
then
could nose
I would have
in,
to know how to drive the boat.
which you do. You know how to drive the boat, but even if you've been around and you've driven the boat a while, nosing into spots can be difficult. And it's nice to have someone out on the bow so you can kind of figure that out, and you can be watching the depth, but that doesn't prevent you from missing a rock or something like that. So we nosed in. I didn't see the second deer as clearly when we got closer, but the other one was clearly a doe. And there was a pretty solid spot where we could anchor. I don't know, maybe a half mile down the beach, something like that. And with this beach, with small little beaches mixed in with some pretty craggy rock stuff and a lot of rocks right off the shore, it was just a tough spot, and it would have been really tough to try to make any sort of move. It wasn't as easy as you go a little bit further down the beach, you nose in, you get dropped off, you get set, and you make a longer shot. Mm-mm. So I guess kind of knowing that, and also seeing how beautiful it was, and being so excited that I had this cabin rented and we were going to head down there, and I just kind of said, you know what, just keep moving. It's still early. Let's get down to the spot and let's hunt that well. And so we left those 2 deer, continued down to the spot. Didn't really get beat up, but there were a couple of waves where I had to be off the throttle for most of it, just because you want to get some sort of rhythm if you can as you're going through those waves. So pull into the spot, beautiful, and there's no mooring buoy. And then I see the mooring buoy washed up on shore. And it was not great because, again, this is a little cove in a fairly exposed spot. So if you're in the cove, you're in decent shape. But half of the cove goes dry at a low tide. So you can't anchor in the most protected spot. You have to be a little bit exposed. And the wind was coming right in it. It was a little blowhole. And so we were meeting 2 friends out there. They were coming out in their boat, and I wasn't totally convinced we'd be able to camp there because we may have been okay, but you're not going to sleep if there is a wind, and you look at the weather, and the weather says 2 footers. Okay, that's fine. The weather says this wind direction. It was supposed to be an east-southeast, but it seemed in that cove at that point it was a northwest. And so if the wind isn't really obeying the weather, and the weather doesn't usually obey the weather forecast up here, I was pretty nervous to leave the boat overnight. We had to be a little bit more exposed in the amount of scope you'd want to put out so the thing would stay anchored, might then put us into a rock. So it was just kind of overthought it, and then finally just, hey, it's fine. Let's at least get off for now. Let's wait for Rob to get here, see what he thinks. So we got off the boat, rode to shore, walked around for about 2 hours or so, 2.5 hours. Yep. Saw a couple rubs, saw some sign, saw where it looked like 2 had sparred. Didn't see any deer, but man, it looked great. Nothing to add? You were nodding your head.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like it would have been a great spot, especially I think when you go out hunting in the boat, it's sometimes you feel like you miss out a little bit because you can't. We don't drive the boat before or after dark, so we're never out kind of at those dusk dawn hours when you feel like the hunting really would be the best. And so I was really looking forward to, staying at the cabin, getting, those dawn and dusk hours there in this area that just looked like there was tons of deer sign.
Yeah. And as you start to figure stuff out, and I've been back here. This is my 7th year hunting, I think now. Grew up here, but I didn't hunt. Just figuring out how necessary it is to be out for those hours. Obviously, you want to be out there because you're going to make the most out of the daylight, but how much more effective are those hours? They're obviously moving more, but once rut really starts, does that matter quite as much? That's always kind of the question, because you see a lot of people who were out and they were about ready to head home and they're getting bucks, and that's another problem because we have the opportunity now to post our success in so many different areas, and a lot of people do that, which is awesome. It's great. I like to see that stuff, but at the same time, you can get the impression that everybody's getting bucks except for you, and then you look at time, and it doesn't look like very many people at all are shooting them like first thing in the morning.
Because no one's out there first thing in the morning.
But I do think there's a lot of, throughout the day, I think you definitely want to be out there early in the morning, if nothing else, to claim your spot and look for that one that's still moving around. But I've had success right around noon, or in that like 11:30 to 1, and I think that might just be because of that's the time when we've gone out somewhere, we've hiked in, and that's when I've arrived at where I want to hunt. Could also be a function of the deer do their night thing, bed for a couple hours, then are back up and rebedding. It could be that they're up and active, like who knows? I have no idea, but that confidence is such a huge thing, and it was nice that spot looked really good, and I was super confident we were going to come up with something, but when Rob arrived, he didn't really like it either. So without the mooring buoy, we ended up leaving. That was kind of sad.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Yeah, at the time, and in retrospect too, I think the weather was good enough that we would have been totally fine. But we couldn't really know that. But it's funny because at the time I kind of was like, I didn't really know about anchoring. I've only really anchored for fishing when you want to anchor and keep your line pretty tight so you can stay on a spot. But anchoring when you're trying to keep your boat in one spot during a storm or when there's potentially a lot of waves is pretty different. And you want to put out way more line than we thought. Like, what is it, like 7 to 1 on your depth or something? You have like a 90% chance of your anchor holding in a storm.
I had heard, like, it depends, again, like you said, the duration. There are times when you go into a little cove, if you're just going to stay there for a little bit, you can use like the little anchor buddy, which is the little elastic thing with a 10-pound ball. And you drop that as you're coming in. That hits the bottom. The elastic cord stretches. You go to shore. drop off your stuff or whatever, and take a rope and tie it off to a tree, and then the anchor buddy will kind of pull the boat out a little bit. So for short term, that's an awesome thing to do. Within a couple hours, and you're going to be near the boat. So the anchor buddy it keeps it out, and it's right there, and then you're tied off, so it sways a little bit, the stern sways a little bit, but you're in great shape. And then a couple times I've been out with buddies that, we go into hunt, we leave the boat, and, I've heard twice the depth, and then also there's kind of a discrepancy there, because I'd heard twice the depth, but as you are feeding out the line, you're measuring, you're putting it out in arm's length distances. So twice the depth is not like a 2-to-1. It's because your arm is 2 feet or so long. It ends up being about a 4-to-1.
Yeah, and
so 5-to-1 is, I think, the minimum that I gotta find that website.
well, and that's like really in a real storm, which
Yeah.
I'm not really trying to be out in the boat in a real storm.
No, and I'm not going to anchor.
But
either.
like, if you're going to anchor it overnight, like, you don't want to be wondering about whether your anchor is going to hold overnight. Like, you want it to be more than enough for whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
But
So I was concerned about that. And then Rob was too, and you just don't want to have an adventure like that.
Yeah,
According
you
to
don't-
boatus.com, scope is required to make the pull of the anchor horizontal. The more upward pull the anchor, the more likely it is to break out. Minimum scope for securing anchor is about 5-to-1. 7-to-1 is better. There was one website we found that had like the percentage breakdown, and if you were doing like
Yeah.
a 2-to-1,
it was like 40% hold
and
or something.
3-to-1 was like 54% or something like that. But it makes total sense that if you don't have enough scope out there, your boat's going to float the anchor and it's going to float the chain if given the opportunity. So if you also anchor in a spot that's near like a drop off, and you drag the anchor just a little bit, if there's enough wind and that thing goes over the edge, then there's a lot of
Yeah.
bad things that can happen. So, anyway, so we were concerned about not having the mooring buoy and just that peace of mind. So it ended up being a beautiful day and it was awesome. We didn't see one buck, but just to be out, that was the longest day trip I've done in the boat.
Yeah.
And obviously the longest trip we've done. Because I bought that boat, this will be second full year? Starting in year 3?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, starting in year 3 with the boat. And you've been here off and on. So this is the first time we can really use that, and that was the first time we went pretty far in it twice. One on the proposal hunt and then one this last year. But just fun to kind of expand the range and see new territory. So get back home, and then next morning we decided to go to where we saw the 2 deer and get out there, and they're not there, but we anchor quietly, get to shore, and there were a couple of muskegs that I wanted to see. I wanted to see the beach where they were at and look for like a salt lick or some of those trees with they rub. And then also wanted to check out a couple of muskegs that I had seen bucks in before. And that's always a tough one too, because people say just hunt like a mile is about what you need to hunt. I think that makes sense. That's just hunt it really slow, really still, be patient. But then if the muskeg that you want to hunt is a little bit further, then you need to move through some area that might have some bucks. So we moved pretty slow. We did some calling, some sitting. Didn't sit super long anywhere, but got the spot that I really wanted to get to. Sat for about 15 minutes and then moved. There's a pretty big network of muskeg, and the middle spot was where I wanted to be. So there's a bunch of trees. There's a tree line and then a slope, and so you can look down at really the good stuff that I was really looking forward to getting to. So we sat on the edge of the first part of it and was hoping to pull something out or over, and then made our way to the middle and just saw that new logging had reached the edge of the muskeg. So we were sitting on the edge of a clear cut just as much as we were sitting on the edge of a muskeg, which was kind of it was kind of too bad. I knew that was happening in that area, but you definitely still have deer around. There's still habitat for them to be able to run around in. There's always stories of people who are logging who, bring their rifle with them, and so when they're off hours, they're shooting nice bucks, or they see nice bucks around because they kind of know what the commotion is. Unless they're threatened, it's just noise. So if there's some nice timber that's near that area, they don't necessarily take off. We were talking about this with elk down south. Like, where do they go when there's a forest fire?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different with logging. I definitely don't think they like the noise. I think that I don't really have any evidence for this, but it just seems like that eliminates one of their senses that they use if they can't hear very well. And so to me, it seems like that probably would move them. But how far is it moving them, I think, is the question, right? And so I think that they probably weren't using that muskeg that we were sitting on as much, but I think the timber on the other side of that muskeg, that's probably where they push down into. There's definitely still places that hold deer over there. We saw actually a ton of pretty fresh sign. Yeah,
some really good beds, sign. It was just in that thick stuff that's so stinking loud, it's impossible to make your way through it. So if you can't pull something out of there, it's really tough. And if you can't see them, it's just open enough to where you can see through pretty well, but that means they can also see you. And so if you're not being quiet, the chance of you kind of making your way through that and then seeing that deer that just stands up out of its bed or is standing there broadside curious, like, it's so unlikely, especially on a day like Sunday, because it was so beautiful and so still and quiet that we probably sounded like buffalo.
Yeah, I do think it was just too loud, and they have the upper hand in that kind of terrain because they can hear you and see you coming a long way off, and they'll get out of there pretty quick.
Yeah, so that's how that went.
So, probably the only people in Southeast Alaska that didn't shoot a deer. No, just kidding.
Yeah. I got a text from my buddy Jesse over in Prince of Wales, and he said that he was feeling the same thing. That it was like he feels like the only one that hadn't shot anything. I was like, dude, you and me. And I thought, dude, this guy's going to shoot something at some point. There's just no doubt. A guy like Jesse that guy's a hunter.
Well, and he's on Prince of Wales. Although you did have some friends who went to Prince of Wales and didn't get anything.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. And then two of my students didn't get anything either. And they're good hunters too. So I was like, oh, I'm in pretty solid company.
I think the nice weather actually made the hunting harder.
For some, maybe. And you didn't scroll through the forum like I did.
But, yeah, okay.
No, I think there is something to that.
The crazy thing about that forum is that, like, I have got to think that 80 to 90% of deer that are killed in this area are posted on that forum.
Well, that forum's for the whole state, too. So someone could be, I don't know where this person is, and I can't view their profile. So I don't know if they're from Sitka, Hoona,
But
Cake,
I'm saying, like, in this area, because you'll get pictures from, like, friends who are like, oh, somebody shot this buck. And then, like, boom, it's on the forum.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I just think that a high percentage of people that kill bucks down here post them on the forum.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like down here could be like all around. So rather than, 15 people shot bucks in the Ketchikan area, it could be 15 people shot bucks on one day between here and Hoona, which is a bunch more islands, which, it dilutes it, I guess, a little bit. But yeah, I think you see probably a good percentage of the people who actually got bucks between the forums and between texts and between, like I sent Ryan a picture of a buck that a buddy had received a text from a buddy who was with a buddy or something like that. So when I texted Ryan, I was like, well, so now you have a buddy who has a buddy who has a buddy who knew a buddy who had this deer. So how removed is it? So that just shows how much that stuff circles, and you can't really let it get to you. I was talking with Dallin on the podcast yesterday, and
Wait, hang on. Before we switch subjects here real quick. Do you ever post on Sitka Blacktail forum?
I have, yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering.
I guess that kind of goes along with the question with what Dallin asked me about. I kind of maturing as a hunter, and I was tempted, and I was frustrated a little bit as we were coming back, because I was getting texts from buddies who'd shot nice bucks, and Jesse got an awesome buck, and then but Ian got a buck, and the guy he was with got 2 bucks. Ian from the podcast on Tuesday, yesterday's podcast with Ian, he got a nice buck, and the guy he was with got 2. So you're just getting this, it seems like a flood, an avalanche of people that got bucks. And so I was disappointed, but there have been times in the past where I get so frustrated with how things are going that I kind of ruin the experience a little bit, and I kind of ruin the fun. And I know I know you don't like that. It doesn't make it fun for you. So I try to do a better job at just kind of looking at big picture, and I think it's a lot less stressful now that you're here, and it's not like a clock ticking on our time. So by the time we got back to the dock, like, I was still kind of disappointed, but it was still a great day, a great weekend. And so Dallin asked if that was like a sign of maturation, and I think it is. And I think another thing with the Blacktail Forum, and I want to share, because it's fun to share. It's nice to share. You shouldn't feel bad at all about sharing, but I think also, just looking at, why am I sharing? Am I sharing, just to get the likes or whatever, or, so it's not to second guess yourself. It's not bad if you do share, but, just kind of maybe reflect a little bit on the intent, and is the reason why I'm so upset I didn't get one is because I can't post it on Blacktail Forum. If I did get one, would I not post it on there? And if I didn't post it on there, like, would I care? Would I have this itch, like, oh, I got to share it. So, yeah, I don't think it's bad. Share all you want. That's great. Good for you. But I don't want to get to the point where I need to share it. And if I don't feel my season is complete, if I don't share that tagged out photo. Because it's about, if I say it's about the experience, it's got to be at the experience, which means that I can come home and I can be totally satisfied, or at least mostly satisfied, with just having an awesome weekend hunting with my wife.
Yeah. I mean, also, I guess I'm wondering, if you wanted to punch all 4 of your tags in August, like, you know where to do that. But, like, you don't do that.
Is that going to be your plan for next year?
Maybe. We'll see how November goes. So, like, if it was just about, like, tagging out, and, like, honestly, you'd get bigger animals there than you probably would in rut, too.
From my experience, yeah.
But, like, you don't do that.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a different type of hunting.
Yeah.
But
it's a different fun, different challenge, and I want to get good at it. It also gives you something else to do. Like on October, if it's raining 18 inches a month, and we had 25 days with precipitation, hunting, especially the last 2 weeks for sure. Those middle weeks are kind of marginal, but you're kind of getting out there, seeing stuff, maybe checking some game cameras and seeing what's moving. So you have something to really motivate you on those really nasty days. So if you have no tags, you can waterfowl hunt, which it's fun to duck hunt, but it definitely gives you something to do during October.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I think it'd be super fun if they were coming into calls, even just does or anything, just any kind of interaction with deer would be fun, but they're not coming into calls at all for us, so.
No, I think part of that is not being patient enough. I thought we worked through the woods pretty good to get to where we wanted to be, and then I had planned on sitting there for a while, and then moving to that other spot, 50 yards away, and sitting there for a while and just kind of posting up.
But then it was all logged.
But yeah, that totally just ruined everything. And then we sat on the beach for a little bit. So the thing was just a whole bunch of just different. In traffic, there were some other boats going by, and so it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess look at some other spots, and I don't necessarily like going to new spots during rut. I like to kind of have an idea of what I'm getting myself into. I feel like the deer already have such a great advantage that, if you know the territory a little bit more, you can adjust to angles, but also means you can overthink it. It can be just as simple. I've gone to some new spots and got bucks just because I didn't have the overconfidence, or I didn't have the whatever, and I just hunted based on what I saw and was successful. So I don't know. We'll see.
So what's the plan for this weekend?
It's supposed to be maybe a little rainy, a little windy, but not terrible. So there's a chance we could boat it.
Is that what you want?
I don't know what I want. The plan starts to take shape around like Thursday morning, because you get a better weather report. It's only 2 days out. But I would like to go to a spot that we have, but go a little bit further back and sit longer.
Okay.
Yeah, no matter where we go, I'd like to do that. There's a spot that you and I were talking about with Ryan, that little nook, little hook area. It's a lot more timber than it does have muskeg, but I think that could be a good spot. And maybe it's an overlooked little patch of land, which, as we know, nothing is overlooked. Or go back to where we did, but we have a better analysis of what's going on there, so we can maybe hunt it better based on what we saw. But it might not be a great weekend to anchor.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of see. Yeah. So where does blacktail deer hunting rank, like for rut, compared to, you've done mule deer archery, you've done mule deer?
I
Pre-rut
am excited
elk.
for you to kill your last 2 deer, or to just burn your tags so that we can duck hunt.
Yep. Yeah.
Saw some good geese, saw some good ducks last weekend.
Yeah. Well, it'd be nice when you have your tags, and then next year, whatever we have left, I could definitely see you shooting all 4 years in August next year.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be tough because I get my residency August 21st.
That's true. Yeah, if all goes well, I'll be heading north for a caribou or a moose hunt in August for
Well, you're going to be
a
back on the
week.
21st, right?
Around 17th or so, 17th or 18th, because one of them is archery, and it closes on the 17th. But, I'll definitely be back to head up and make something happen.
Yeah. No, I mean, road hunting is not terrible, but it just seems like a lottery.
Yeah, I got to get better at stuff. If I was better at this point, it would make things easier. But, I know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Anything else
Where
you got?
does, I was going to ask, where does rut hunting rank for you?
I've had enough success to where I like it a lot because I know that there's a chance. I don't feel totally worthless and helpless. But then you have those humbling weekends where things don't go right and it gets frustrating. Like last year when I had 2 tags and then I missed a buck on the 31st of October with my bow, and the next day I miss a buck. So I've had chances. And then I didn't see another buck. Well, I saw 1 buck, but I wasn't able to get a draw on it. So I saw like 5 bucks in a week, missed twice, and then that was it. And then this year, so far, none. Mm-hmm. By this time last year, because I saw a couple bucks the week before my prime week, which was awesome, but I was with the bow and didn't get any shot, and the next week missed twice, and I didn't see anything for all of November, which sucks. So, like that, I get really excited. It's just fun to be in those close quarters and to just walk and be quiet. So I really like that, but it's so nice to be up in the Alpine, long days, sunny, warm. sometimes. A lot of times it's wet, cold, but
Yeah, if it was sunny and warm every day, that would be fine. But usually it's rainy and cold.
yeah. So, yeah. See how it goes.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, you got anything else?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
All right. Well, that'll be the end of the episode then. I always forget to plug the book, Miserable Paradise, Life in Southeast Alaska. You can pick that up on Amazon. You can go to miserableparadise.com, check that out. I got hunting notes for blacktail deer hunting, bear hunting, caribou hunting, just kind of stuff that I've figured out and stuff that I haven't figured out, and just kind of a recap and notes from a bunch of stuff from hunts. So you can check that out at mediocrealaskan.com. Even though miserableparadise.com will take you to the mediocrealaskan.com.
Whoa.
So, yeah. Crazy. All right. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time.
Bye.